Islam, our self-Lord and Master, I sincerely love Allah's mathematics. Coming at you today is the fifth corner pimp. Pimp stand for putting ignorant minds proper. Yo Sultan, me, Sultan Shaheed Akbar Allah L. You heard me? Today, I got another article that I'm going to be speaking on today on how the Vatican, just recently, a couple of days ago, continues their ban on Catholics becoming Freemasons. And Pope, the Vatican continues its ban on Freemasons. And then also in this article, I have another article where I talk about the Masons and the Moors and how masonry, how European masonry hooked up with Moorish science created the United Snakes of America. So I got that in this YouTube. Him be talking about that. You know what I'm saying? Fix my camera right up in here. Like always, I'm gonna put the description and with the article and description what I'm talking about, so you can do your own independent research. Because I'm not a dictator like the priesthood. You know, I just try to make y'all think and open your mind. I ain't on YouTube for likes. I ain't on here for monetary things. I make money off this shit. I don't make money off my views, even though they got my views and shit restricted lately for some reason, you know, which I don't really give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? If I reach one person, I'd have done my job. Each one teach one. Duty of a civilized man is to teach civilization to the uncivilized. Civics mean law, you know what I'm saying? Universal law. You know what I'm saying? So, with that being said, let us begin. All right? So, I'm going to read this here first. I'm going to quote this from The Clock of Destiny, Volume 2. That's a book that's written by Sean Bay, who, Sean Bay, for people who's not familiar, was a Moorish master astrologer and the brother that started the Clock of Destiny Cultural Club back in Cleveland, Ohio, back in 1973, somewhere around there, you know. But anyway, they said, did you ever stop to think that the Pope and every ordained priest of the Catholic Church are master astrologers? These master astrologers are the ones who have long suppressed the signs of the zodiac by way of negative religious mystery or superstition. Only selfish dictated master astrologers can enslave the human minds to false gods and religion, and it requires only the unselfish master astrologers to expose the mystic angle of astrologers' priesthood dictatorship, and thus set the human enslaved mind free. Now you may continue reading the unselfish astrology side of the law. All right. So the zodiac in astrology deal with masonry, and the Pope of the Vatican confirms their ban on their Catholic members being Masons. All right. They say Catholics may not become Shriners or otherwise members of Masonic societies under the pain of excommunication. All right. So right here in this article I previously showed you about, I'm gonna read to you. It says the Vatican confirms the ban on Catholics becoming Freemasons, November the 15th, 2203. Vatican City. The Vatican has confirmed a ban on Catholics becoming Freemasons, a century-old secret society that the Catholic Church has long viewed with hostility and has as an estimated global membership of up to 6 million active members. And Freemasonry by a member of the faithful is prohibited because of the irreconcilability between the Catholic doctrine and Freemason. The Vatican's doctoral office said in a letter published by the Vatican media on Wednesday, the department known as the Dicastery of the Doctrine of the Faith issued its opinion dated November the 13th, a countersigned by Pope Francis in response to a bishop from the Filipinos, alarmed by the growing numbers of Freemasons in his country. The same office said last week that transgender people can be baptized, serve as godparents, and act as witnesses at Catholic weddings. The letter on Freemasons cited a 1983 declaration signed by the late Pope Benedict XVI, at the time the Vatican doctrine chief, stating that Catholics and Masonic associations are in a state of grave sin and may not receive Holy Communion. All right. Masonic lodges are normally male societies associated with occult symbols and rituals. They have also sometimes been linked to conspiracy theories alleging undue influence on world affairs. According to the United Grand Lodge in England, modern Freemasonry is one of the oldest social and charitable organizations in the world, rooted in the tradition of medieval stonemasons. The group says it has 180,000 male members with two parallel female lodges, in England having another 5,000 members, and estimated global Freemason membership at around 6 million. All right. So the Pope keeps the ban on Catholics for becoming Freemasons. Why? Because in true Masonry, they teach you to look for God or your salvation within yourself. It don't have nothing to do with the conspiracy theories and things that people say about what the brotherhood is about that don't know. You know, they give it a negative light, you know what I'm saying? But the Catholic Church don't want their members to join these lodges because their members are going to start thinking and questioning the doctrine of belief. All right? The age that we're in right now, called to the universal zodiac astrology, is the age of Aquarius. And Aquarius is the age of enlightenment and social order, social change. You know, where information that's been hidden will come to the light. So the Pope and the Catholic Church is attempting to keep their followers intact by keeping them sheeple and keeping them blind. But in all actuality, the Pope secretly studies Masonry and the zodiac and astrology itself. You know what I'm saying? Okay, now this is another article I have that I'm going to touch on. It's called The Masons and the Moors, all right? This article was published in a magazine called The New Dawn 86 back in September, October 2004. They say the orders of Freemasonry, as would be expected, is such a, quote, vulnerable secret society, end quote, are shrouded in myth, legend, and almost impenetrable obscurity. Since at least the late 18th century, Masonic writers have sought to establish a link between the Knights Templar and the Freemasons. Masonic lore and symbols have been traced to ancient Egypt and Phoenician. Yet, despite all the books and articles exploring Freemasonry published over the last 100 years, there is one area that has not received attention. It concerns Freemason depth to the Islamic mystics and a shallowing tradition connecting the Mason with the Moors of North Africa. Moorish signs. The involvement of Freemasons in the establishment of United States of America is well documented. In fact, Masons featured so prominently in the drafting of the American Declaration of Independence that many people believe it thoroughly a Masonic project. Not only George Washington, but also the U.S. founding fathers Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson were high-degree Masons. Masonry has a profound influence on the foundation of American society, but there was also another secret power which has gone completely unnoticed. The Kingdom of Morocco, under the leadership of Sayyid Muhammad bin Abdul, known as King Muhammad III, was the first country in the world to recognize the United States of America as an independent nation in 1777. This historical act by the North American Muslim kingdom highlights the relationship that exists between American Masonic leaders and the Moors. Before exploring this strange connection further, we need to understand that the part played by the Moors in the transmission of knowledge to Europe. Moor is the classical name in Europe of the Muslim people of North Africa. In Spain, where Muslims ruled for over 500 years, Arabs are still called Moros. The term Moor came to be synonymous with Muslim in many contexts. For example, the Muslim community in the Filipinos are known today as Moros. The supreme wisdom of the Moors, which much of it derived from ancient Egypt, has come to be known as, quote, Moorish signs, end quote. The Moors provided the vital link between the ancient and modern civilization. The light of knowledge which illuminated the Moorish lands of Spain and Sicily was instrumental in dispelling the gloom of ignorance that engulfed medieval Europe. Quote, it was under the influence of Arabian and Moorish rival of culture, end quote, writes Ravid Beaufort, in the making of humanity, quote, and not in the 15th century that the real Renaissance took place. Spain and not Italy was the cradle of rebirth of Europe. After sinking lower and lower in barbarism, it had reached the darkest depth of ignorance and degradation when the cities of the Sacred world, Baghdad, Cordova, Cairo, Cordova, Toledo, were growing centuries of civilization and intellectual activity. It was there that the new life arose, which was to grow into a new phase of human involvement. From this time, when the influence of their cultures made itself felt, began the striving of a new life, end quote. The Orientalist Stanley Lampoon acknowledged the great impact Moorish civilization had on Europe when he wrote, for nearly 8 centuries under the Muslim rulers of Spain set to all Europe a striking example of a civilization and enlightenment state. Art, literature, and science prospered then they prospered nowhere else in Europe. Students flocked from France, Germany, and England to drink from the foundations of learning which flowed only in the cities of the Moors. The surgeons, doctors, and engineers were in the vanguard of science. Women were encouraged to devote themselves to serious study, and a lady doctor was not unknown amongst the people of Cordova. Look at that shit there. The 19th century French writer on esoteric societies, Gerald N. Casey, known as Pappus, note how the Gnostic sects, the Arabs, the alchemists, the Templars, from a chain transmuted ancient wisdom to the West. This explains why within the ritual of Freemasonry there is the admission we came from the East and proceeded to the West. A Masonic author, Bernard Springett, says, all right, he says, the plain fact that much of what we now look at is almost entirely as Freemasonry has been practiced as part of the pursuit of religions of the Middle East for many thousands of years, lies open for anyone who cares to stop and read instead of running by, but it is frequently and scornfully rejected by the average Masonic student. So we found that just as Europe borrowed considerably from the learning of the Moors, European Freemasons took its secret wisdom from the Muslim East. With the end of the Moorish rule in Spain, Europeans began to colonize Africa, Asia, and the Americas. In the time European Christians conquered Moorish territories, the great debt Western civilization owed to the Moors was quickly forgotten. By the 18th century, European Christians saw themselves as the predestined rulers of the world with a divine mission to civilize the heathen. Western historians conventionally ignored the immense contribution of the brilliant and energetic Moorish civilization in delivering Europe from medieval barbarianism. We can only conclude this as a result of the pride and presumption of Westerners will prevent them from recognizing the truth of importance of their depths to the East. Ain't that some shit? This is a deep article, y'all. Check this out. Seekers of the truth. The founders of the American Republic as high-degree Freemasons was aware of the importance of Moorish masonry and culture to the birth of Western civilization. This may explain why Morocco was the first nation in history to recognize the United States, and what's really behind the story of George Washington being presented with a Moorish flag. Some researchers believe this flag consists of a red background with a green 5-pointed star in the center, the star of the pentagram, which the Moors called the seal of Solomon, and colored green to honor Islam. Also figures primarily in Masonic art and architecture. The layout of the city of Washington, D.C., designed by Freemasons, incorporates the pentagram. When Freemasons traveled into the Moorish land encountered Sufis, the mystics of Islam, they soon recognized a common bond. Sufism, said Sir Richard Burton, was the eastern parent of Freemasons. John Porter Brown, an American diplomat in Turkey in the mid-1800s, was a Freemason who symptomatically of the Sufi path. In the Dolphinist, he admits finding it rather strange that the Dolphinists of the Bokasi order consider themselves quite the same as the Freemasons and are disposed to fraternize with them. Brown commented how in Turkey Freemasons had come to be generally regarded as atheism, atheism of the most condemned character, a position not unlike the one held by Papyrus, the celebrated French occultist and Gnostic bishop who tried to counter the Masonic lodges which he believed were in the service of the British imperialism and the international financial syndicates. Papyrus also viewed Freemasonry as the diabolic perversion of the ancient secret tradition, and this is at the heart. All right. When Madame Blavatsky, 1831-1899, set out in search of hidden wisdom, it was the Moorish land of Egypt that she sojourned. All right. Blavatsky claimed to be a disciple of the masters of Moria and Kuf Huma. The researcher K. Paul Jones convention shows her tales of the masters to be modeled on real people, many genuine occult adepts. Prominent amongst them Jamal ad-Din al-Hafki, a Sufi scholar, tireless politically in the leaders and radical movements throughout the Muslim world, was travelers endemically parallel those of Blavatsky. For more than 30 years, best remembered for co-founding the Theosophical Society and helping to popularize Buddhism and Hinduism in the West. Blavatsky also proudly wrote of, quote, living with the whirling devotees, with the Deuce of Mount Lebanon and the Bindabon Arabs and the Malbouts of the miraculous, end quote. Madame Blavatsky masters are very close to the super tradition of Kawajan, Persian masters. Ernest Scott states the Kawajan teachers are entirely corporate in literature, having been physically located in the Hindu Kush area since the 10th century. The Hindu Kush range is in Afghanistan. Geographically, it forms the western extreme of the Himalayas. Scott quotes from the paper by a Turkish writer who described how the members of the Kawajan interviewed from the time to time in human affairs. They do this not as leaders or teachers of mankind, but unscrupulously by introducing certain ideas and techniques. The intervention works in such a way as to rectify deviation from the predestined course of human history. This inner circular claim concentrates its activities in those areas at those times which the situation is critical for mankind. All right? It says certainly Blavatsky teacher Jamal Afghani, who was raised in Afghanistan, fits the description of a master adept. His life is described as mysterious oasis that led through lanes as far apart as India and America, received by heads of state in Cairo and Istanbul. He moved in part underground radical circles in the highest centers of power in Europe and Oriental capitals. The living idea of spiritual guides of masters is central to Sufism. In the words of Sir John Garposki, Sufism cannot be defined in words, nor can it be comprehended by the human intellect. It can only be imperfectly caught or imbibed by the association with a Sufi master. The Sufi master is reverenced by his disciples for being in contact with the level of higher consciousness. His mission on earth, directed by higher powers, studying the lives of some of the greatest Sufi masters, we can find them to be wandering holy men or women, which actions are usually misunderstood by Orthodox believers. The shrines of the Sufi masters are centers of trance dancing, exorcism, and miraculous healing. The Sufi tradition is integral to Moorish science. Sufi masters are also renowned in communicating with the following through dreams, through numerous stories of Sufi saints appearing in a disciple's dream, usually telepathic to direct the followers to undertake a special mission. All right? So that part of the article right there is telling you how these European scholars goes to the east and get information from the Moors, from the mystics, and they formulate their stuff. And the Pope is against, man, dropping my damn frankincense all over the damn ground. They dropping, I'm dropping. They're telling you who the real masters are. They're telling you what Moorish science is. And the reason clear why the Catholic Church is banning these people from being Freemasons, because they don't want you to put the link together between the Moors and the Freemasons of European descent, which they look up to us. We they masters, and they the children, right? I'm gonna read the last part of this here. I think I got one more page and a half on this article. Now we're gonna talk about the mission to America. A few years after Manny Pulaski founded the Theosophical Society in New York in 1875, the master adept Jamal Afghani turned up in America around 1882. Two Americans of African descent who were rumored to have studied under Afghani were the parents of the man who would one day establish Moorish science in the United States. Noble Drew Ali, born Timothy Drew, early in the 20th century took a job as a merchant seaman and found himself in Egypt. According to one legend, Noble Drew Ali made a appearance to North Africa where he studied with the Moorish scholars and received a mandate from the king of Morocco to instruct Americans of African descent in Islam. His association with the ruler of Morocco is significant when we recall the historic relationship between the Moorish country and the early United States. At the pyramid of Cheops, his followers believe he received initiation and took the Muslim name Sharif, which is Noble Abdul Ali. In America, he would be known as Noble Drew Ali. On his return to the United States in 1913, he had a dream in which he was ordered to found a movement, quote, to uplift fallen humanity by returning the nationality, divine creed, and culture to persons of Moorish descent in the Western Hemisphere, end quote. He organized the Moorish Science Temple along the line similar to Masonic lodges with local temple branches, adept chambers teaching esoteric wisdom derived from the circle of the Eastern Sages and the master adepts of Moorish science. Noble Drew Ali is said to have made a historical visit to Washington, D.C. in order to reclaim the Moorish flag and obtain official recognition to call his people to the true faith of Islam. The U.S. president, believing that African Americans would not embrace Islam, gave Noble Drew Ali full authority to teach Moorish science in America. By the end of the 1920s, membership in the Moorish Science Temple had grown substantially. With increasing numbers of African Americans rallied behind Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish movement soon became under the scrutiny of the FBI. In the 1929s, several Moors, including Noble Drew Ali, were detained for questioning by Chicago police. Released from custody, Noble Drew Ali fell ill and never recovered. Many Moors suspected his death as the result of severe police beating. Following the inexplicable death of Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish Science Temple continued and gave rise to the unique Islamic groups amongst African American community. Much of known history of the Moorish Science Temple in North America is extremely complex and obscure. By the 1950s, some white American poets and jazz musicians came into contact with Moorish science. The North African cities of Tangier and Marrakesh had held a magical attraction for the leaders of American counterculture, with writers like William C. Burroughs spending years living in the Moorish land. The Moorish Orthodox Church of America was formed by white Americans who held Moorish science passport and had ties with certain wandering bishops of the Old Catholic and Eastern Orthodox churches. Joseph Matheny, the American author and media theorist, first encountered Moorish science when he was researching time travel and quantum consciousness. In his book, On to God Heart, The Beginning, the Moorish Orthodox Church is called one of the most secretive and mysterious religious organizations ever known to man, and a revolutionary, heroic sect of Islam that carries an ancient tradition was sought to counterbalance the forces of Orthodox Islam. Despite the controversy and dubious nature of the MOC, part of their tradition has been to serve as the torchbearers of freedom against the tyrannical and repressive aspect of the Earth's patrimonial power structure as the planetary consciousness shifts into the age of Aquarius and sets its sight on unlimited freedom and the expression of life and all of its true wonder and beauty. Look at that, age of Aquarius. Years before the War on Terror and Bush invasion in Afghanistan and Iraq, the writer attended a lecture organized by people associated with the Moorish Orthodox Church. The speaker, a Moorish sheikh returned from a long sojourn in the East, claimed Freemasonry is built on a twisted of the truth of Moorish science. It is the secret power behind the West based upon supreme wisdom derived from esoteric Islam. The European colonizers obscured the knowledge of the Moors and created a nefarious system of control that blinds man to his true identity. Freemasonry has identified as a chief player in the world of Babylonian systems, the mastermind of institutions of introduction that prevent the full knowledge of All right. It's getting good at the end, huh? Flip this page here. Okay. Since the full knowledge, and I staple this here, the true God to be known. Moorish science is the effective counter to the Freemasonic imposters and a force for truth, love, peace, freedom, and justice. The Sheikh also revealed how Afghanistan and Iraq figured in sacred, geographic, and numerology and mentioned a secret war between the Anglo-American and Asiatic powers. Is there a struggle between the cult brotherhoods to influence human destiny? Are the dynamic events taking place in the world from the continuing strife in Palestine, here go Palestine again, Iraq, Afghanistan, and to rival between the forces of Atlanticism, British and the U.S., and Euro-Asia, Russia and China? This surface manifests as a deeper conflict. Certainly, the strange saga of the Moorish science and the Moorish Orthodox Church adds weight to the observation made by one of the 20th century's most controversial mystics. There is a history behind our so-called history that cannot even conceive of. History has a deeper base. The preliminary that we know as history is not the reality. Behind our so-called history continues another history, a deeper one about which we know nothing. All right? And that article is from the New Dawn magazine, 86, published in 2004. You know what I'm saying? Where they talk about the Moors and the Masons. And the other article I read to you was talking about how the Catholic Church has a ban on that. And y'all can see from that article why the Vatican have a ban on their members becoming Freemasons and how Freemasonry came from Moorish science. The whole thing is they don't want the people to get to who the true originators of civilization and what's going on. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, I'm your Salt and Fifth Corner Pimp signing out. I'm gonna put the information that I read in the description below so you can look it up for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So you can think for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And that's where we at right now. You know what I'm saying? Islam, I self-love the master. I sincerely love Allah's mathematics. Peace.